everyone, this is Grandmaster Damian Lemos here for iChess.net. Welcome to this new series we are doing about games of Magnus Carlsen, and this time we'll see some tactical games. If you haven't seen the other videos, I strongly recommend watching them. We have sacrifices, positional stuff, all in the view of Magnus Carlsen's his games. So let's get started. The first game we are going to analyze is Carlsen against Nakamura. This is from Tata Steel in 2011. So we have a Sicilian, Magnus was playing white. We have the main line, and here Nakamura decides to play the Najdorf variation. The main Sicilian nowadays. You can also play Knight c6. This would be a classical Sicilian. e6 is the Scheveningen. And of course, here we have the well-known dragon. So, a6. Magnus, he usually chooses positional lines, even in Sicilian, which is supposed to be more aggressive. I mean, white in Sicilian, he usually goes for aggressive variations like this, followed by f4. Variations where a queenside castle is involved. So bishop e2, let's see what happens here. Usually when white plays like this, he usually castles short. However, in this game, Magnus plays it flexible and goes for bishop e3. Yeah, g4 is another move as well, but maybe it's a bit too soon. I would play this move once he's castled already. By playing bishop e3, I'm not showing my cards yet. I can play with a4, I can castle, I can play f4 next. Maybe I can play this move, as we'll see in this game, but I like the flexibility of my position. Black castles, and then we see white's ideas. We play this, now we have a clear target on the king side, and as soon as possible we'll start our pawn storm. So black plays like this. He would love playing the d5 advance. There is a rule: when someone advances on the wing, you have to counter attack in the center. So we play this move right now. I mean, before black achieves his free move d5, we play this, knight f d7, and h4. We can play queen d2 as well. I mean, both moves protect this pawn. When we play this, we are also ready to castle as soon as possible, and black should invest this move on creating some counterplay on the queen side. And useful move is obviously knight c6, but maybe a5, trying to play a4 plus a3, creating weaknesses on our queen side. This is very interesting for black. I think I would play something like a4. As white, I cannot afford allowing this maneuver, because then he advances too much. So instead of queen d2, Magnus plays h4. The opening will sit quickly because we want to see as many games as possible. So black plays knight d6, queen d2. We have to castle as soon as possible, so there's no room for other moves. I mean, we cannot play this because g5 is hanging. If we play this, this looks a bit slow. I still have my king in the center. So once we are castled, then we can think about other moves. Queen d2. He plays knight 8 d7. If he plays knight c4, I'm more than happy to take. It is true that he's got the bishop pair, but I can establish a knight on d5. Bishop on e7 is not special, and my pawns, they continue advancing, so I keep the initiative. So he plays this, f4. This is a novelty. By the time this game was played, f4 was a new move. I think castling queenside is good as well. I mean, we'll castle queenside. There's no chance we castle kingside here. I would be surprised if white plays a move like this, because then our attack is dead. Not to mention he can fire on the kingside because now we have the king here, so f4 is interesting, but castling queenside is as well. So f4 takes. This is a typical maneuver in the Najdorf. Black establishes his knight on e5, blockading the e4 pawn, blockading our bishop's diagonal, and if he has the chance, he'll jump to c4. This is part of his counterplay. So we castle queenside, rook to c8. This is a good preparation move. I mean, he plays rook c8 first, and then he can play knight c4. If he plays knight c4 right now, we can even play queen e1. We don't have to offer our bishop. We could, but queen e1 is playable, and then we continue advancing our kingside pawns. This is a complicated game, to be honest. We can also take, play something like queen d3, and then we have some knight jumps. I really like this as well. The key in these positions is to hit first. It is obvious that we want to open the king side, but black is not gonna wait. He's going to attack on the queen side as well. So rook c8, here we have to be careful, and king b1 is a useful move. Whenever you castle queen side, make sure you play a move like king b1 and have all your pawns protected. So black keeps on preparing the jump to c4. If I were black, I would be tempted to jump right away. I mean, it looks aggressive, I create threats, but that being said, white is too solid. We still have the positional ideas we had before, and what I like about this position for us is that black doesn't have any real sacrifices. So as long as those moves are not working, then white is fine. So queen c7, h5, and now rook f e8. Maybe this is the first mistake by black. The previous moves he made, they were great moves because he's preparing. But rook f e8, I think this is too careful. It was time to jump to c4, something like this maybe. I can take, knight takes, queen d3. I know white has these jumps, we know this, but okay, even a move like knight a3 check is possible. And yeah, I'm not gonna take, that would be destroying my queen side. And this is complicated. I can also go for a queen trade as black. Without queens, white's attack is not powerful. If I take on a3, I take on c3. If I trade queens off, game is level. Maybe white, he's a bit better because he has pressure on d6. But this is a game. And black is already creating threats on the queen side. So I would say this move is a bit slow. And Magnus plays king a1. I love this careful move, same as king b1, just in case we play king a1, and the idea is to stop a possible knight a3 check later. Here, for instance, if he goes knight c4, I can take, knight takes, queen d3, and now knight a3 doesn't gain much. I mean, he can play it, but it's nonsense. It's not even a check. So king a1, we see black playing bishop f8, and now Magnus starts driving his pieces to the king side. We see queen c5. Well, this move is possible, but as black, you hate creating weaknesses and offering white the chance of opening the h-file. This can't be good. So queen c5, and Magnus opens the king side by the price of sacrificing a pawn. I have to say this is a cheap price, to be honest. We want to open lines as soon as possible. And eventually black plays knight to c4. The huge question is, can he take? And probably with the f-pawn, because if he takes this way, opening the h file is not a wise idea. Knight takes, I can take, rook takes, I have bishop c4, and if this... this is suspicious at best. I would play bishop e3, make sure the queen runs away. The queen is also overloaded, protecting the knight on b6. And here, yeah, I should find a way to drive my pieces to the king side. Yeah, this is probably lost for black. So, if he takes the pawn, it has to be with the f-pawn. And the idea would be somehow playing h6. But, yeah, this is asking for trouble, because one day I'm going to sacrifice there. I can even play a move like rook h5, trying to take on e6. Here, you probably get my idea, rook h5. I want to take the bishop, and then I want to play bishop c4. The thing is, the knight is under a pin, and there's no defense for black. Not to mention, I'll have some chances of sacrificing my bishop there. So, yeah, from the human point of view, taking here is not a wise option. Therefore, black plays knight ec4, takes, knight takes, queen d3. Here we understand how powerful this move was. Now there's no knight a3 check for black. So he plays pawn takes. Maybe. Of course, at this level, it is tough to play accurate moves, especially when we talk about a Sicilian, but b5 is worth considering. If this, black can play something like king h8, and now the h7 pawn works as a defender because we cannot sacrifice on h7. That is a white pawn. This is a nice defensive resource, using your enemy's pawn as a defender. And of course this is suicide, because we can open that position in all sorts of ways. So that being said, after b5 takes king here, I mean, I said the king is safe on h8, but that is not true. I said I wanted to say black has good ways of closing the king side, but h6 is an option. Knight d5, trying to play knight f5 one day. Yeah, white has a clear advantage. So, okay, black goes for this option, we take, and h6. Okay, so we saw this option before, taking plus h6. Now we should somehow open the h file, and yeah, we probably have to consider the obvious bishop takes h6. I don't think it's working yet, because he takes, he probably blockades with bishop there, and we are running out of gasoline. So before doing that, we can prepare it with queen c3. Now it is different because we have the queen on this file, and okay, Nakamura plays queen b6, knight takes b2 is also possible, king takes, queen b4, now we play the simple knight b3, and we still have everything under control. Extra piece shouldn't be a big deal for us. So queen b6, super solid defense from white. Again, I would like to repeat the importance of playing king a1. Black doesn't have any counterplay on the b file. So queen a5. Another accurate move by Magnus. This reminds me of the games of Garry Kasparov. Every single piece is participating, and now we are ready to punch on the king side. Knight to e5. He's trying to play something like rook takes c3 maybe, but here we play knight to d5. I like this move. First we avoid black's threat of taking on c3 plus queen takes a2 mate. We could also take the bishop on e6. That is possible as well, but I like this knight d5. The thing is, we give a pawn, but the problem is all our pieces are attacking on the king side. If, for instance, we play knight f5, a sacrifice is coming soon, and black's pieces are not focused enough on our queen side, so our initiative is definitely too much. So this was the game actually, queen takes d5, and now instead of knight f5, which is the move I just played, and probably in a real game I would consider knight f5 if I don't calculate much, here we have a better move. I recommend you pause the video and try finding the best continuation for white. I'll do a 10 seconds pause and then I'll continue talking. So in this position we have we considered before this sacrifice, and this is actually the way to go. Probably finding the right move wasn't hard, but calculating the entire variation is. So bishop takes. First we have to consider what happens if he plays another move. I mean, instead of taking the bishop, what happens if he plays something like queen takes c4. Here we have the simple bishop e3, attacking the queen, and once he moves the queen, whatever, we have rook h8, and then queen h3, queen h7 mate. This is a classical mate, so queen takes c4 is not possible. If he cannot take the knight, he has to take the bishop, otherwise we move the bishop somewhere, and then we have rook h8, and we have the mate anyway. So he decides to take, and another great move. We make sure he doesn't blockade the g file. If he achieves this somehow, then our attack is probably dead. So, whoops, it was a mouse clip. We play this move first, and now, no matter what he plays, our attack is on. If he plays this move, we have knight f5. It's not that tough to calculate the complete variation from now on, because black has only moves. Check, he has to move the king here, and then knight f6. We end up winning a queen. If you saw this variation, then well done. It is forced, so that is an advantage. Bishop e7 is the best try for black. This is what Nakamura played. Rook takes. We still have forced moves by black, and here comes the most important move of the game. Knight f7, now we have to finish him off, and the question is, how? This is the first move we look at. Knight takes, we promote, king takes. It looks like we should mate him here, but rook h1 is not possible, the queen is guarding that square, and I don't see a mate yet. If we give black some extra moves, he's up a rook, and we have to be extremely careful. If this, bishop f6, and best we have here, according to that computer, is a draw by repeating positions like this, knight h6, king g7, knight f5, king g8. So we have to be extremely careful here not to waste our advantage. After this, the move to win is this one. We have a mating threat, only move is knight takes, queen takes, and now the problem is black cannot stop queen h8. He plays this, we play queen h8, king here, and we promote with check. Every single move we play is a check. Black doesn't have any way to bring pieces into defense, and after rook e1 he resigns. If he covers the check, he's lost, and if this, we mate him on e7. So a great attacking game by Magnus. It is tough. I mean, when we analyze it looks easy, but to play a game like this, making no mistakes, we also see a strong opposition, obviously Nakamura, one of the most talented players in the world, to play a game like this is extremely difficult. So now let's see another game. Now we'll see a game Magnus played against Aronian in 2008. This was the Bilbao Grand Slam, and we'll see a Slav defense. We see Magnus attacking in all sorts of openings. We saw a Sicilian, we see a d4 game now. I mean, it is a completely different game. So knight c3, this is the main line of the Slav. You can also consider playing e3, protecting the c4 pawn, but now you're committed to play with the bishop inside the pawn chain. When you play this move, you're more flexible. Depending on what black plays, you can consider bringing your bishop out before playing this move. So black plays e6, the semi-Slav, and white decides to play the e3 variation. Solid, protecting the c4 pawn. If you're looking for more action, you can play this move. And here we have the Moscow variation. You probably saw this before. White gets a huge center, whereas black, he's got an extra pawn. And this is a complicated game, with a lot of theory, by the way. So e3 is possible. We go for quiet lines. That is something Magnus does a lot when choosing an opening line. So e3, knight b7. The idea of black here is to take on c4 and play b5. The thing is, he's waiting till we move our bishop, therefore we lose a tempi. Imagine we play queen c2. If we play this, he's not taking on c4, because then we take in one step. On the other hand, if we play bishop d3, and this is what happened in the game, he takes, and now we play the bishop takes c4 in 2 steps. That means black has an extra tempi. So b5, this is the Meroan variation, bishop b7, and Magnus plays one of the moves here, a3. We can also castle, e4, I think it's playable as well. We have all sorts of moves. Knight to e4 is another idea. The thing is, when we play a3, we are playing against black's plans. His idea, after all, is to play a6, keep this pawn protected, and play something like c5. If he achieves this, then he's freeing his position. Another way of freeing his position would be playing b4 and later on b5, c5. This is the variation I'm talking about, b4 plus c5, and then this bishop becomes a powerful one. So by playing a3, we are trying to slow him down a bit. Black plays b4 anyway, and now knight to e4. If we take, this is possible, bishop takes b4. Theory has proven that black is pretty solid. Worst scenario, he can defend the bishop with a5, and for white it's almost impossible to stop c5. And I think chances are equal. Black has fully equalized once he achieves c5. So Magnus goes for the initiative with knight e4, and the good news here is if pawn takes, we could take, that is true. We could also leave the pawn on a3. I mean, we can consider a move like this, trying to play in a gambit style, and if black doesn't pay attention, I mean, if he just plays bishop e7 and castle, we can go for a positional line and try trading his best bishop off with bishop takes a3. We see a maneuver like this in the positional chess video by, I mean, we've done this video on this channel, but the title is Positional Chess by Magnus Carlsen, Positional Sacrifices, Positional Maneuvers. You'll find a maneuver like this, and the game is Carlsen against Anand. I recommend that game as well. So let's see how this game was. Instead of pawn takes a3, we see knight takes e4, bishop takes, and now black decides to take on a3. This is what I'm talking about. White goes for development. He doesn't want to take the pawn on a3. That looks a bit slow, to be honest. I mean, we can, but then he plays bishop d6, he castles, he can play rook b8, and sooner or later c5 is coming. Believe me, once he plays c5, I mean, the game is not over, but it is fair to say it's equal and dry. So, pawn takes a3, we play in an aggressive way, and now black has to choose whether to play for material or development. If he takes, we simply take, and now the problem is bishop d6 is not possible. Oops, that arrow was mistaken. I mean, it is possible, but it is also risky. We can play queen c2, now he has issues. If he wants to castle, knight f6, I take on c6. And here we start understanding why grabbing on b2 was a bad idea. Worst scenario, I play rook fc1, rook b1, and he's under pressure on the queen side as well. So taking on b2 is basically against development rules, and if he plays bishop e7 or bishop d6, I can simply play the idea we said before. We don't take on a3 with the pawn. We leave this square available for our bishop, and the most important thing is we trade his best bishop off. We leave black with his worst bishop. This is not winning, but okay, I have weaknesses to attack on the queen side, my pawn on b3 is well protected, I have an edge. So, Aronian in this position, after pawn takes a3, I mean, Magnus castles, and he plays knight f6. This is a wise option, at least he's not grabbing material. He could play something like bishop e7 here maybe, and castle as soon as possible. But he plays this move. We know this is an aggressive approach, and he plays a5. Okay, this position. We know that if black castles, if he gets these moves in, by the way, a5 is to play bishop b4 if required. If he castles, then he's got an extra pawn. We'll have some compensation, but we can tell his issues are over. So now here is where we have to play with energy, and we'll see Magnus doing exactly so. He plays this unexpected move d5. I mean, I know this game, I've seen this game too many times, but even now I see this move, I'm surprised. This is a classy move and a practical move. Even if black finds the best moves, white has at least equal chances, and in practice it is almost impossible to defend as black. I mean, it is easy to make a mistake, whereas for white it is super easy to play aggressive moves and to keep the initiative. Why we play d5? Well, his king is on e8, and that is a good reason to play this. If he takes with this pawn, he's already losing. We play bishop b5, or king e7, bishop a3, knight d7, knight e5. This is a mess. Queen f3. I mean, he's losing pretty soon in this position. We can tell we have many ways of opening lines. So c takes d5 is not an option. E takes d5. Well, this is probably better, but then we play knight d4, knight f5. I can't imagine a way he can castle with too many pieces fighting on the king side. This is super risky. Knight takes d5. Well, this is what happened in the game. yeah, I was confused. Queen takes d5 was also possible, but then, worst scenario, we can play queen c2 or even knight e5. And having the queen here is not a good idea. I mean, he can play queen c5, I run away. All I want is to keep pieces on board and make his life impossible when he has the king on e8. So, d5, knight takes, knight e5. This is what I love about this game. We don't see straightforward moves, we see moves that make some improvement, like d5, now knight e5. This is not an obvious continuation, but we know we're bringing the queen to the action. So he plays knight f6, queen a4, and black decides to give some material back with bishop b4. Okay, so can we take on c6? That is the first question. Otherwise we can consider a move like rook fd1 and we continue fighting. The big question is taking on c6 or not. If we can, then we have to play that, because he's one move away from castling kingside. So this is what happened in the game. We see that taking is possible. If this, we simply have knight e5 check, and he loses the queen. So knight takes, queen d7. If he plays this, we have bishop b5, and he cannot stop material losses. Knight takes b4 is a threat, and if he moves the bishop, well, I can still play this move. I should be winning in too many ways. Knight e5 wins as well. So knight takes c6, bishop takes, queen takes, and I think our mission is accomplished. He's not castling after queen takes c6. Queen d7, he loses the rook. Knight d7, well, this is terrible luck for black. I mean, bishop b5 should be annoying. Rook fd1 as well. I don't see any way to get rid of all the pins here, so he should be losing. Even if rook c8, I play queen a4 and there's no way to stop bishop b5. So yeah, knight d7 is a bad idea in practice. So it's either king e7 or king f8. And if I had to choose, king e7 has to be better, because at least his rooks are connected. So he's up a pawn, but he's got the king in the center. We have the bishop pair. We have all to win in this position. Rook c8, queen f3. We go back home, and queen b6. Okay, if he plays this somehow, then I'll agree, black is better, but in order to achieve that, there's a long way to go. And I'm curious about queen d5. I mean, if he trades queens off, then that is a good sign for black, but of course we play queen here, and having the queen on d5 can't be good. We have all sort of discovers. So, okay, rook c8, queen f3, queen b6. As I said, he's got a plan, but each move we play, we create a threat, and we don't give black any tempies to improve. Now he moves queen b8. If bishop c5, then rook b1 plus rook b7 is deciding the issue. So queen b8, bishop a6. I have to say, Aronian, well, we all know he's a top player, but it is still incredible how good he's playing here, because he's finding the best moves to continue on. And the thing is, as black, it's super easy to make a mistake in this position. Our bishops are way too powerful, and we can open that position anytime soon. As we see, we have a lot of ways to enter that position and crush this king. So rook cd8, another great move by Magnus. It's like we're waiting to see what happens. It's like we're waiting to see black's mistake. But bishop b7 is not a waiting move only. Bishop b6 is now a possibility, and he plays h5. This is a bit aggressive, to be honest. As white, we don't expect a move like h5, but he's got some ideas, some attacking ideas on h2, and I get the feeling black was tired of playing passive moves, so h5 is okay. White plays the simple h3 and h4. As you can find on the analysis, this is probably the first real mistake in this game. The correct move was e5, and the engine says this is equal, but in a real game, playing this move, opening your king even more, allowing queen f5, it's super tough. The queen is on a closed diagonal. I mean, the concept of opening your king is, I mean, this has to be wrong, in practice at least. Of course, that computer always finds tactical reasons to play something, but e5, at least in a game playing Magnus Carlsen, it's almost impossible. So h3, I'm not surprised Aronian didn't play his e6 pawn, and now after rook ab1, he moves it because there's no other move. Now he plays e5, but let's see why. If he plays anything else, we have this simple threat. Rook takes b4 plus bishop c5, and that is a nice picture. We are almost mating him. So he plays e5, and now, as you probably expect, we have the sacrifice with rook takes b4. Now if he takes on d4, I can just take. I'm still amazed by this bishop b7 move, it was great. It was also blockading the action of the queen. As you can see, the queen is no longer guarding b4. He's absolutely lost here. Maybe he has some slight chance of surviving, but with the king on e7, that's tough. So he takes on b4. Well, we'll see now, our bishops are dominating. But before analyzing that, let's see this amazing move. Rook takes d4, now everything is hanging, but this was probably the best try. After all, black wants to trade as many pieces as possible. If this, he takes on b4. It is tough to believe black is resisting here, but we don't have rook e1, so if rook takes d4, we have to play this move, and we are ready to take with the rook if necessary. His king is way too open. Even pawn takes, now it's different because there's no queen e5, and there's no way to stop this move. So here white has a clear advantage as well. So okay, e5, we have the sacrifice, pawn takes, bishop c5, and the king has to go up. So here is where the action begins. King e6. If he plays king e8, well, this should be an easy win. Knight d7, queen f5. This is a nightmare. He cannot even move. And if this, we have queen here, no way to stop the mate. Knight is under a pin, and this, if f6, queen mate. Another great variation here, if king e8, is check. Rook d7. As you probably imagine, we are not going to take with our bishop. Let's make sure he's under a million pins, like this. And after queen c7, we have the same maneuver we had before. There's no way to stop the mate. f6, we take on g7, we also have queen g6, and this move runs into queen takes e5. What a nice picture, getting a possibility like this against Aronian. This won't happen often, I can tell that. So Aronian plays king e6, and another tough move. Here when you see this position, you start thinking about checks, ways of mating him as soon as possible, but Magnus plays the calm rook a1. Of course, we don't want to trade on d8. We play this, and our next move is going to be rook a6. So he plays rook d6, takes. Now if queen takes, we have rook a6, winning the queen, king takes, and we still have to play careful. With the king there, it's tough to believe black has any chance of surviving, but you never know. I mean, after doing a lot of videos, we saw all sorts of tricks. So king takes, let's finish him off with simple variations. Queen here, king e7, and rook a8. This was unexpected, but we end up trapping his queen. Now, queen d6, we take. Rook takes rook was also possible, no perpetuals, the queen is protected. Taking the rook was winning as well. Rook takes h8, and here, careful because it's never late to make a mistake. That pawn is running, we don't have Vishy b4, and the knight is controlling that square, so let's see how Magnus wins this. Rook b8, I would be extremely careful because king c7 is possible, and I'll have to give a lot of material back. In fact, I'm seeing rook c8, king, rook c3, this is the only way to win the game, and it would take us much more moves. So, yeah, rook b8 is a mistake. Magnus plays bishop a6, now if b2, bishop d3, if e4, I have bishop c4, and bishop a2, that is winning as well. So, he plays knight e7, it's never late to make a mistake. Rook takes h4, of course Magnus, at this point he won't make any mistakes, knight c5, and to finish him off, bishop c4, b2, bishop a2, and otherwise we start bringing our king little by little to catch the only counterplay he has. So that's all for this video. This is a long video, by the way. Usually we don't go that far, but we had a lot of variations to analyze. These were two games full of tactics, and it's not about the tactics only, it's about the strategy behind the attack. Because remember, these games were played against super strong opponents, so having an easy attack with beautiful variations, it's almost impossible. By the way, if you want to see more of Carlsen Great's attacks, we have a video which is Carlsen versus Kasparov, and in that video you'll also find great attacks by Magnus. And for this video we saw two examples. Of course, there's much more to come. We will probably prepare a part 2, so stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed this analysis, I hope you enjoyed this video, and of course I want to see you during my next presentations. Thank you.